Episode 207, How Do I Get My Boss on Board? Geez, Chrissy, I like the show and I want to do all these things, but I'm not self-employed and my boss isn't on board yet. So if you work for someone else, it may feel impossible to make these kind of changes, but we're going to talk about that this week because there are some really great discussions that we can have with your boss. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dog Show. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a master groomer, behavior specialist, master canine stylist, master certified grooming expert, certified behavior consultant for canines, certified professional dog trainer, fear-free certified in grooming and training, an educator and dean of academics at the Whole Pet Grooming Academy. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the show where we talk about teaching pets to be good for grooming and other types of care. As groomers, we see so many pets with behavior problems. And I know that you've probably been drawn to this show because you work with pets with behavior problems, or maybe your own pet has a behavior problem, or you're a trainer who is really interested in cooperative care. But I think it's really easy to forget that many groomers are still thinking in terms of selling haircuts. And I want us all to kind of take a step back from selling haircuts. So if you are in the mindset that you're selling haircuts, it might seem like every haircut needs to be completed to perfection. And that's where the disconnect is. So if you're working for someone else and they're looking at you thinking, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard, we actually have to get this done, this dog has to look perfect, then here are some things to consider. A recent survey says that 99% of dog owners are experiencing training or behavior problems with their pets. And I want you to think about how that can translate for us as dog groomers to talk to an owner about, but he's having difficulty here. They know their pets aren't perfect. They know their pets aren't perfect angels. They know that there are behavior issues and difficulties. So if we embrace that, if we lean into that with like, hey, listen, he's having trouble with this, or he's not well prepared for this, and frame it out as a training issue, because most owners realize that they have some training issues. Behavior problems are training problems. Sometimes they're physical problems, but even then, there's some sort of training behavior modification that we need to do, and that's important. So if we start talking to our owners about like, oh, you wanted a full trim today, but your pet's really not ready for that. This is how we can explain it to a business owner too. We know that the problem with grooming is that pets find it unpleasant, uncomfortable, and or scary. And if we're not working on that and we just try to do perfect trims, what we're often doing is making it more unpleasant, uncomfortable, and or scary, which is not our goal and frankly makes it harder to get work done in the future. So I want you to think about, we aren't selling haircuts. We are selling hair cutting services for pets who are well prepared for those services. If they are not yet well prepared, what are we selling? We are selling behavior services. Behavior services. Oh, wait, what? Yeah. This is where, as groomers, we kind of have to step back from our role as doing a beautiful haircut into the role of, I am willing to do training sessions toward beautiful haircuts. I'm willing to work with a trainer with you, help you get set up with things that you need to know so that your pet can have beautiful haircuts. Oh, do you see the difference? So instead of saying, I'm going to do this beautiful haircut, I'm saying, I want to help you with the lessons that your dog needs to be able to have a lifetime of grooming services. So when we talk to our boss, I want them to know this is not going to lose them money. This is a different type of sale. And it's something that's really necessary, and it's something that many of our owners are looking for. Owners search for somebody who is going to be gentle with their pet, who is going to be compassionate about how well their pet can handle this, and to help their pet through this process. Not every owner. But I'll tell you what, when we frame behavior problems out as safety problems, like we've talked about in the safety policy, and we've mentioned it many times on the show, when we frame it out that way, what happens is most of these owners say, I had no idea my dog could be injured. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you guys didn't have some special way of doing it. As far as they're concerned, they're going to the mechanic who has all the right tools, not realizing that their car is different than their pet. And all of the right tools doesn't necessarily mean that their pet won't be a challenge for the grooming process. They don't know that. We have to spell it out. And as business owners, if you're boss, if you work for somebody else who is like, listen, this trim has to be perfect. If we explain to them, yeah, but if we talk to an owner and say your dog isn't well prepared for this, but your dog does have 15 years worth of grooming needs that we need to prepare for, and I am willing to sell you those services. I want business owners to realize that they should always have an idea of how much to charge for a groomer's hands-on time. And all of your pricing should be based on that anyway. All right. Even if you have your price list on dogs of with this coat type at between these weights, all of those things should be based on that workstation and that employee's hands-on time. And if you know that number, then that's what you charge for behavior services. And behavior services are going to be different because when we're trying to teach a pet to be comfortable with it, we have to let go of the idea that it needs to be perfect. Let go of the idea that it needs to be perfect. And that can be really challenging. But we're not selling a haircut. And in this case, we're not yet ready to sell this pet owner haircutting services. We are selling them behavior services. And it's a specialty. And it's an upsell. You can charge more for that hands-on time for behavior services. Now, what I think a lot of business owners aren't really thinking about is how they can lose money by forcing dogs through grooming. So that's the other side of the coin here. A lot of groomers are very frustrated where they are because they're thinking, I would love to slow down and spend the time working on this and let him go home looking less than perfect and have the behavioral win. Have a dog who is excited about this, who isn't frightened, who walked away feeling like that was a pleasant experience. That wasn't so bad. My groomer is not so bad. Who are feeling pressured, these groomers are feeling pressured to, at the end of that session, still do a beautiful job. And that's where I was at before I started my own business. I was so frustrated because I would make behavioral progress. And then it was like, yeah, that was great. And I'm glad you worked on that. But now we need to get that finished, which would erode all of that hard work that I just did. You can trust me. I'm not going to push you too far. You can trust me. I'm not going to push you too far. You can trust me. I'm not going to push it too far. Oh, except that we're 2 hours in now and I actually have to get it done. And I actually had somebody at one point say, well, playtime's over. Just get it done. And what it does is it tells them, I can trust you. Sometimes. Maybe not all the time. How do you feel about someone that you can trust only sometimes? We call them untrustworthy. So it was really frustrating for me. And I get a lot of groomers saying the same thing. They're really frustrated because they're like, I just want to make this behavioral progress. And behavioral progress may seem really slow. Okay. And you may have an owner who's upset, but not if you have the whole conversation beforehand. The whole conversation about behavior problems being safety problems is at the root of your success. That's where the owners have to opt in or go someplace else. I know, and that's a tough one for a business owner, isn't it? Like, well, all right, but you weren't here. Can't we book this dog with someone else who's going to hold him down and add some more straps and get him beautiful while he screams? But that erodes every bit of hard work you've been doing. And so we need to really commit to it, tell people that, he needs the behavior work. I can't just do beautiful trims on dogs that need behavior work. It's not going to happen. Everyone take a deep breath. What do we say if somebody comes in with a matted dog and says, I don't want any fur taken off. I know he's not matted. He's fine. Just do the pretty trim that I want. We tell them, no, We need to remove the mats, or we need to brush through the mats, or we need to schedule something different. But no, I'm not doing a beautiful trim over mats. We're used to saying no. Now we need to switch that over to doing perfect trims over behavior problems is just as bad as doing perfect trims over mats. So we are selling a different service, and it's a necessary service. And I'll tell you what, there are a lot of trainers out there who are really frustrated trying to find dog groomers who will help with the behavior part that they've been working on with that owner. It doesn't just affect us in the grooming room. If an owner can't touch their dog's eyes, that owner has a significant training problem. They cannot just bring that dog to a groomer. They should not be just bringing that dog to the groomer, yet we know so many of them do. And if they're working with a trainer, maybe they recognize that they have a pretty important problem going on at home, and they're working with a trainer. That trainer is looking for a groomer who's not going to undo all of the hard work that they've been doing. This is a service. This is valuable, and this is a different way of approaching grooming problems. So when we start thinking about our process, I want you to think about, I'm going to first explain to owners that behavior problems are safety problems. I'm going to tell them I have some solutions for them. And maybe you don't yet. Maybe you've been listening to the show and you're like, hey, cool, I've got some pretty good tools in my tool bag. I want to work on this. But if you aren't comfortable working with a behavior problem, maybe this is something that you send to somebody else. Maybe this is something that you have them work with a trainer. And I want to mention here too, if you see a behavior change, if this behavior problem is new, that's a vet check. Our very first thought should be, is there something physically going on with this pet? Brand new behavior changes, let's check with a vet. Let's make sure that this pet is healthy. So not every training problem is going to be resolved during dog grooming. And not every grooming problem is going to be resolved with the dog trainer. We do need to kind of meet in the middle, and it is going to be very important for us to help an owner understand that they cannot get the perfect trim today. And if you work for somebody else, to explain to them, perfect trims can't happen on dogs who aren't ready for perfect trims. It literally creates more problems, and it's going to get somebody hurt. And there are some really awful videos and terrifying stories of dogs being injured and even dying during grooming because they were struggling and someone didn't know what was going on and just kept adding more restraint. And it's pretty horrific. The modern groomer does not do that. We do not do that. I'm glad you're here enjoying the free stuff. If you're wondering, does Chrissy go into any more detail? Yeah, I do. I do that in the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program, which is about 9 months to complete. We meet every week, and we have modules online followed by live recordings. And then at the end, you're doing all sorts of the techie stuff that really doesn't fit into this podcast. So if you are interested, the next round of Master Groomer Behavior Specialist starts on Monday, July 6th, and that round will meet at 7 p.m. Eastern every week on Mondays. So that's Monday, July 6th. If you want to know more, wholepetnh.com and look for the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program, or you can go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and take a look around there too. So if this helps, I'm going to add another example. Imagine you have a car that you're looking through some ads and you're like, hey, wow, they'll do a paint job for X amount of dollars, make your car look new again. And you're like, great, that's exactly what I want. I want the paint job that's going to make my car look new again. And you bring the car in and they're like, yeah, you can't get the paint job that makes the car look new again because you have rust and you have dents. They don't apologize about it. They're like, yeah, I can't sell you that. You have to do all this other foundation work before we can give you the paint job that makes your car look perfect again. That's for people who don't have dents and don't have rust. So if you're the owner of the car with some rust spots and a couple of dents, yeah, you're just going to have to sit down and figure out your finances and decide if you can get those dents taken care of And if you can take care of the rust so that you can get the perfect finish. The perfect haircut is the perfect finish. It's that paint job. It's on the surface. We need to take care of all the stuff underneath. And that is really important because if you paint over rust, the rust is still there. It's just going to come right back. If you paint over a dent, it's not like anyone's fooled. And also, your technician is not going to be like, oh yeah, sure, we'll pull those dents out for free or for like an extra $20. Actually, let's talk about that for a minute too. If you work for somebody who upsells just a little bit of a handling charge, I'm not real keen on doing business that way. And let me tell you why. I do want you to charge for your time. But if you're doing, oh, it was a full groom, but also he wasn't very good, so we're charging you $20 more. The owner just hears that they have to pay more. They do not hear that they have any work to do or that there was anything wrong. Oh, you know how Sparky is. He's just so goofy. He's spicy. Oh, I hate that term. Sorry, guys. I know a lot of you use that term, but oh, he's just so spicy because they go home and they're like, because he's so spicy for his nails, he costs mommy $20 more every time. Ha ha ha. And they do not fix it. They do not even think that there's a problem. Your upsell version for them is sort of like, oh yeah, and brush his teeth too. And can I get a bandana and some perfume? They are not thinking that they have a training problem. They are not thinking that they have a safety problem. So instead, sell them behavior services. Sell them behavior services. Don't sell them a beautiful haircut with an upsell of he's a spicy dog. That's not going to help solve the problem. Tell them they need behavior services. And we offer behavior services. And actually, I have had a couple customers over the years say, why would I go to my groomer for behavior stuff? And I'm like, well, I'm actually a trainer also. But I mean, that's okay. If you're working with a trainer, great. This is what I need your dog to be able to do. And that includes standing still, being touched all over with weird stuff and things, and doing it for a long duration. And go work on it with you and your trainer and work on it at home and bring him back. We'll do smaller, shorter grooming sessions and see what he can do. I don't need to be the one to do it. But if we don't spell it out that they need behavior services, they think they can buy a haircut, and they cannot. Just like the dented, rusted car can't get a beautiful, beautiful paint job. Okay, it's not realistic. Yet for so long, groomers have been pressured into perfect trims. The other part for a business owner is I want you to consider if your staff are burning out because all of the dogs, quote unquote, all of the dogs have behavior issues. When somebody tells me that all the dogs that they work with have behavior issues, my first thought is you are in a situation where you have to do perfect trims, and you are in a situation where you have to do them fast. And that is the recipe for a whole clientele of dogs who aren't good for grooming. So know what the hands-on time is worth and know what to charge. And that's going to be an important part for transitioning into selling it as behavior services and not feeling like that table and that groomer is losing you money. If you start thinking, oh, I could have groomed these two sweet little dogs in the same amount of time that I just spent on that one and made more money, then you're not charging properly. It's not because there's a behavior problem. It's because you're not charging for your behavior services properly. So this is just another point of view for us to consider if we are talking to maybe a boss or an employer, or if you're an employer saying, how do I get this started? You might find that you have a groomer working for you who's like, oh no, I have to get him completed. This might be the discussion you have with an employee. No, this dog is behavior services. This dog isn't ready for normal haircuts. And I've met groomers who are not comfortable working behavior cases at all. And you know what? They do gorgeous trims on dogs who are well prepared for it. I don't mind if I do the training part. And then as that dog becomes better, he goes to somebody else in the room. No problem. That's great because I like behavior work and not everyone does. So think about these behavior services almost like, do you offer hand stripping or not? Do you offer hand scissoring or not? Think about it as just another service, another way of doing things. Behavior is a specialty service. If you want to know more, I'm actually going to be at the Pet Pro Classic, and I'm teaching all day, Saturday, June 7th. I'm going to teach 5 classes on a Saturday. Good God. And that's coming up this week. I'm also teaching the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist Diploma Program at the Whole Pet Grooming Academy. And I have some shorter classes available at the Whole Pet Grooming Academy too. We have Modern Behavior and Handling for Groomers, and we have Groom Smart. So those are 2 workshop-style online classes that I think are great entry-level, let's just learn more about this kind of classes. And you have access to me in those classes, which is kind of fun. So everybody have a great week. Bye.